Welcome to the deep dive. So if you just made it through that week between Christmas and New Year's, you probably get the vibe of the source material we're looking at today. It's that weird, suspended time where nothing feels real.
But things are still happening.
Yeah.
Big things, which is what's so strange. And the notes you sent, they really captured that. We basically boiled them down into, I think, 3 big threads.
Okay.
First, there's this deep dive into nostalgia and some pretty strange gender dynamics you find when you rewatch classic pop culture.
Right.
Then you have this friction between, super local politics, we're talking stadium deals, and these huge global rule of law questions.
And then the last one.
The bizarre economics of celebrity, how they make money, how they use it, and, what that means for their legacy when it's all said and done.
That's it. So our mission today is to give you the shortcut on all 3. We're going to kick off with why you felt you had to like certain bands, and we'll end up connecting a classic rom-com to a pretty controversial foreign policy decision.
Let's do it. So that week, let's start there. The Day Lost Vortex.
It's a real thing, isn't it? The source notes had you thinking Thursday was Friday for what, most of the day?
For most of the day, yeah. The calendar it sort of freezes.
But that freeze lets you think. And speaking of that, your notes captured this amazing conversation about music you felt you were supposed to like, but just didn't.
It's that cultural pressure.
It started with U2, but it pretty quickly became the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix.
The big ones.
The Mount Rushmore guys. And there was this idea that if you were, a smart, curious kid, you had to worship them, and I couldn't connect. It felt like I was missing something fundamental.
What's so interesting, though, is how the notes contrast that with how much you loved Prince.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't see the through line there, or they don't see how you could dislike one and love the other.
I always saw the connection to James Brown,
Yeah.
and Sly and the Family Stone. That was obvious with Prince, but the sources brought up Jimi Hendrix, which I just never got that.
And this is where synthesizing all this material really pays off. See, the reason you can find Hendrix, say, a little abrasive but you love Prince, is that Prince didn't just copy him.
Okay.
He took Hendrix's revolutionary idea for the guitar, this, vehicle for just pure sound and explosion, but he filtered it through the tight surgical groove of James Brown's funk.
So he cleaned it up in a way.
He refined it. He took let's say, the emotional chaos of Hendrix, and he gave it a meticulous, danceable beat. It's a perfect example of how influence gets transformed. You can love the descendant without ever really liking the ancestor.
That makes so much more sense. It actually bridges that gap for me. Okay, so sticking with the holiday binge watching, you also revisited some classic romantic comedies.
We did. When Harry Met Sally and Pretty Woman. And looking at When Harry Met Sally today, it was kind of a surprise.
What was?
The realization that Meg Ryan's character, Sally, she's arguably the stronger one. And funnier than Billy Crystal.
I completely agree. She carries that movie. I noted that one scene early on where she asks him to dinner and he just whiffs. Completely misses it.
Are we becoming friends?
Yes. And you just see the disappointment on her face. She's smart, she knows what she wants, and she's basically trying to drag him into a relationship. It really holds up because she's got so much substance.
That substance is the key. Now contrast that with Pretty Woman.
Still charming.
Oh, absolutely. It's pure nostalgia. But when you watch it now, 2 things just jump out at you.
The age difference.
The big age difference between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, yeah.
Yeah.
And, the whole glossing over of what her actual profession would be like.
The charm kind of fades when reality creeps in.
A little bit.
Okay, speaking of things that aren't quite real, let's talk about the frustration you flagged over those music reaction videos.
Oh, yes. Specifically the ones with young Black people listening to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 for the very first time.
And they're just shocked, blown away. A white lady can sing.
That's the part that's so artificial.
The performance of it all. That's what gets me. It's so obviously staged. No one reacts to a good song for the first time like they've just seen a UFO. They might nod or say, that's a banger.
Right.
But the big theatrical, whoa, what is this? It's content.
But is the argument in the source material that the creators are just playing on stereotypes, or is it something deeper? Like, what's the motivation behind it?
It's financial cynicism. That's what the source says. The whole premise is shaky.
That they've never heard Dolly Parton.
Exactly. The notes actually said, quote, Dolly Parton is kind of a big deal in the Black community. She has so much crossover appeal, there's just no way these people have never heard 9 to 5 somewhere. a movie, a commercial.
So the surprise is totally manufactured.
It is. And the goal, according to the analysis, is to feed this narrative that taste is completely segregated by race.
Which generates arguments.
It makes the comment section explode. And the creators just collect the ad money. It's a machine built to turn division into clicks.
That is a much darker read on it than just fake shock.
Mm-hmm. So if that's a kind of manufactured cynicism, let's pivot to some very real financial cynicism in local politics. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs stadium deal.
This is a classic story. Local pride versus, big money economics.
The team is thinking about moving from Missouri to Kansas.
Right, to KCK. And to do that, they want state bonds to help pay for it all.
And here's the catch. For those bonds to be approved, some local jurisdictions like Wyandotte and Edwardsville, they have to agree to be part of a new taxing jurisdiction.
And that's the whole fight right there.
Explain that. What does that actually mean for people on the ground?
It means the local people are being asked to foot the bill for a billionaire's new project. They're being asked to agree to higher taxes, usually sales taxes, which always hit the poorest the hardest, without getting any new real public services in return.
So the argument from the opposition is that this is just another handout to billionaires.
Exactly. That this is public money that should be fixing roads or schools, not building a giant pleasure palace for a private company.
The sources really leaned into that bread and circuses idea.
They did. This whole push for a new, maybe dome-covered stadium, a Roman-style Colosseum, as one source put it, it's framed as this massive distraction.
To keep people focused on the team while
the bigger issue of wealth consolidation just keeps rolling on.
That's a powerful argument. But the sources did have a counterpoint, right? Something about the team's history.
Yes. For all the talk about loyalty, people pointed out that the original owner, Lamar Hunt, he moved the team from Dallas in the first place. So the original commitment wasn't to this specific plot of land in Missouri. It was a business move for growth. And this potential move now, it's just a continuation of that same strategy.
So from a business perspective, it's just history repeating itself.
Pretty much.
Okay, let's zoom way, way out now. From local stadiums to international law, specifically the reported U.S. action in Venezuela.
The abduction of its leader, yeah. This one is, it's complicated. A huge contradiction. Well, on one hand, the sources all agree. The Venezuelan leader was corrupt, cruel, universally hated. Many of his own people were reportedly thrilled that he was gone.
Okay, so what's the problem?
The method, the how it was done, raises these immediate, really serious global concerns about setting a precedent.
And the domestic reaction was interesting, too. I saw in the notes that some Maguire supporters were actually upset by it.
They were. They were asking, what happened to America first? Why are we getting involved in this messy foreign situation that doesn't directly concern us?
And that gets to the heart of it.
It does. The bigger concern from legal experts in the material is that this administration is setting an incredibly dangerous global precedent. The justification was essentially, he's corrupt.
So the worry is who gets to decide who's corrupt enough to be abducted?
Exactly. Who's next? And the sources drew a really clear line to the lead up to the Iraq War.
Which was obviously hugely controversial.
Yeah. Deeply controversial, based on bad intelligence. But there was at least a process. The Bush administration at least paid lip service to the UN international procedure.
There were debates, resolutions.
A presentation of evidence, flawed as it was. This action in Venezuela, as described in the notes, it just skipped all of that. It's a major acceleration of just doing whatever you want unilaterally.
Yeah.
And that gives other powerful countries a green light to do the same.
It's a huge story that, should be front page news for weeks. But most people are still focused on what's happening at home, like grocery prices.
And that pivot tells you everything about the public mood. The sources link those high costs to a couple of things. Lingering post-COVID inflation, for sure. But also this simple argument that wages just haven't kept up. And that's made worse by things like tariffs, which drive up the cost of imports. It all comes back to that same theme.
Wealth consolidation.
The companies can handle the higher costs.
Yeah.
The consumer ends up paying for it.
Okay, shifting gears again, but still on the theme of wealth consolidation. Forbes announced that Beyoncé is now officially a billionaire.
It's a huge deal, a historic moment. And yeah, the Cowboy Carter Grammy win, the massive country tour, that all helped.
But that's not the whole story.
Not at all. The sources are clear. The real wealth isn't just from performing. It's about asset control.
What does that mean exactly?
It means ownership. Like Jay-Z and Rihanna, she owns her masters. That's huge in the streaming age. But even bigger is her company, Parkwood Entertainment.
Oh, production company.
Right. She's not just a performer anymore. She's a media mogul who controls every part of her own output.
Yeah.
That, plus a big real estate portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get to billionaire status. It's comprehensive ownership.
And speaking of celebrities and their power, let's talk about Nicki Minaj showing up at America Fest.
A very public embrace of Magier.
Which moves us from pure economics to, well, something that looks a lot like transactional politics.
And the context here is everything, which the sources provided immediately. Her husband is reportedly in some pretty serious legal trouble.
And might need a presidential pardon.
Exactly. So that instantly reframes her political shift. It stops looking like an ideological change and starts looking like, well, a very pragmatic use of her celebrity platform for a specific personal goal.
Using celebrity capital to trade for a political favor.
A pretty transparent transaction.
Yeah, okay, from the transactional to the enduring. You also put together a list of notable recent deaths. It really makes you think about legacy.
It's always a sobering list to look at. The contrasts are just stark. You have these foundational figures from the last century, like George Wendt Norm from Cheers.
And Gene Hackman, who is just incredible in everything. Lex Luthor, The French Connection.
Oh, everything. And then someone like Ozzy Osbourne, who somehow went from being the Prince of Darkness to this beloved, kind of confused American icon.
And Rob Reiner, the director. Spinal Tap. When Harry Met Sally.
A huge cultural impact over a long, full life. And then you contrast that with the really tragic losses.
The ones who died far too young.
Exactly. Like Malcolm Jamal Warner Theo Huxtable at only 55, and Michelle Trachtenberg at just 39.
Wow.
And that contrast between a life fully lived and one cut short, that's what forces you to really think about the mark people leave.
And to end that section on just a completely bizarre note, that sports prediction from the source material, the Pope thing.
You have to share it. Apparently, the last 3 times a new pope was elected.
The Seattle Seahawks went to the Super Bowl.
It's a completely useless, coincidental fact, but now you know it.
And you can't unknow it. So, what have we learned here? We've gone from stadium politics to U.S. foreign policy, from music history to the legacies of Hollywood stars.
I think we should leave you with one final thought, something about purpose. It's that time of year. And you mentioned watching a movie, Song Blue.
Yeah, about a tribute singer. And it just got me thinking about that idea of having to keep going no matter what.
There was that quote in the notes about comedians, that the only reason they succeed is because being a comedian is the only thing they could possibly do.
That's it. They just commit so completely because they don't see another option.
So it raises a pretty powerful question, I think, for you to consider as we start a new year. Why is there that feeling that you must keep going on your chosen path, this kind of stubborn dedication?
And how do you know the difference between real foundational passion and just being too stubborn to admit that getting a regular corporate job might actually be easier?
That's your food for thought. Passion versus stubbornness.
We encourage you to keep learning and keep challenging what you think you know.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
We'll see you next time.